Okay, on to the next topic. Why I stopped trusting Rotten Tomatoes ratings, okay? Where do I begin? I mean, like I said before at the beginning of this episode, there is a need for an aggregate. The reason why IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes websites like these are there, it's because not because like people need to read the critics' reviews or people need to read what an expert has been saying. I feel like, I don't know what an expert constitutes, but it's basically, I guess, someone who has watched a lot of new movies, knows a lot of movies, or has worked in a lot of movies, I guess. But whatever the case, excuse me, let me just adjust this. Whatever the case, it's not just for that. It's mostly because there is a need for an aggregate, to really tell us what we should be watching. The reason being, I don't know if it was that necessary in the 90s, in the early 2000s, but now it's paramount. The reason being is that there is just way too much content. Like I said before, there's just so much is being made one after the other, like movie after movie, the blockbuster after blockbuster, television show after television show. There are so many streaming services now. Cable is competing with HBO, and HBO is competing with Netflix. There is just a barrage of content thrown at your face, and now every country is competing with it. There is not just Hollywood anymore. There is not Bollywood anymore for us, at least. There's just so much content. That's German movies are great. Russian movies are great. Television shows are coming off from like South Korea it's like there's just way too much content. That's what I'm trying to say. But the aggregate is that we have to have a place of trust where we can just we know that the experts or the critics, whoever it is, they know more than us because they have watched more than us. They know how to critique something better than us. So there has to be a form of trust that if I go there and I read something, if I look at a score, for example, my time is not going to be wasted. Rotten Tomatoes, for me, was that place of trust. I had formed a bond between the audience rating and the critic rating. Always like, okay, if there is a low critic rating and a high audience rating, maybe it could be very entertaining, it could be very funny, it could be very like a reactionary movie, like a lot of jump scares. A lot of people have a problem with jump scares. If done well, jump scares can be very interesting to watch, but not too much. Like there has to be a good balance. Or something can be hilariously funny, like a stupid Adam Sandler movie like Waterboy or something. But I'm pretty sure Waterboy is not going to get a high rating amongst critics because it's just that stupid. So I've always liked to gamble with a high audience rating or a high critic rating and a low audience rating. So it's always been a fun game. What I'm trying to arrive at is that I do trust the critics' ratings enough to really invest myself in a TV show sometime or invest myself in a movie sometime. Like there are movies that just by nature look very art house or like a critically acclaimed movie, but is it like supposed to be a slow burn? Am I going to get bored by this? Or am I going to have a very visually interesting experience or a story-wise, a profound experience or something that's just is going to make me think, like Donnie Darko, for example. Like, is it going to be that kind of an experience, like a surreal kind of a movie? Whatever it is, most of the time I used to trust Rotten Tomatoes because most of the time I used to agree with Rotten Tomatoes ratings. Like, okay, if someone says that it's going to be a different kind of experience for you, but, it's not mainstream, I like to look at a Rotten Tomatoes rating from critics and be like, okay, I'm going to have a different experience today. I'm not just going to trust the box office numbers, and I'm going to listen to a critic and I'm going to invest my money into this and see what's up. And maybe I'm going to have a very educational, very different emotional experience. And yeah, that had been the case most of the time. The doubts began with Dave Chappelle's show. Okay. If you don't know, Dave Chappelle put out his comedy special. I think it was called Sticks and Stones. And it got a whopping 0% ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, I didn't know about this, but I really do like watching stand-up comedy. But like I said, too much content. Netflix has been churning out special after special from good comedians, like different comedians, new and old comedians. You just don't know what to pick. There's just way too much stuff to watch. So if there's a Dave Chappelle comedy special out there, I'm going to watch it because I know that I'm not going to be disappointed. My hour is not going to be wasted. So I didn't know about this, but someone, I think a podcast or so maybe like brought it up. I don't know who it was. I can't remember. Or maybe like a YouTube channel brought it up. And it's like, Dave Chappelle got a 0% ratings. I'm like, that's not possible. Dave Chappelle does not put out a show that would get 0%. Okay, if he was off his game, maybe 70% or maybe 60%, but 0%? Like, it's unbelievable to me because this is a veteran comedian, or I don't know what else word to use. I'm sorry, my vocabulary is not that big, but I was just shocked, because I was like, is it that bad? Can it be? Then they opened the ratings for the audience and it got a staggering, 99% or something like that. I had never seen that kind of a difference of opinion between experts and the audience, between critics and the viewers. It's like, what? I think it kind of piqued a lot of people's interest. Like, what is going on? And then I watched the special and I laughed my off. I can't tell you how amazing, how hilarious this thing was. And I'm like, I was just sitting there thinking, did we watch the same thing? Were the critics just, I don't know, like, were they in a bad mood? All of them? 0%. Nobody gave it a 1% even, so that it could get a 0.0001% or something. So what was going on? That was, I'm not going to go further into it. There are a lot of videos that go into it. Maybe there's an agenda. Maybe Rotten Tomatoes is woke. I don't know. I don't think so. But there definitely was something to it. Like, not everyone can be that woke. I mean, there were some jokes that, like about the trans community and stuff. I could see that someone could be like, this is like, we don't like this, something like that. Yeah, sure. But I can see that happening. But everyone, there were jokes that were about different takes, like Jussie Smollett and stuff like that. That was hilarious. And I don't know, but I'm not going to go deep into it, like I said. So that was when it began, my doubts. The distrust happened like many other times with many more movies. Then I don't want to bring every single movie. I don't want to drag these movies. It's not that important. What I want to talk about is 2 TV shows. I'm going to bring it to a very recent incident. I'm going to bring out 2 TV shows. Both of these TV shows are from different streaming services, of course. There are just 200 streaming services. Let's not talk about how many TV shows there are in those streaming services. But one of them was from Apple TV. The other one is from, I think, HBO. So, like I was kind of wondering what to watch once, and I saw that Chris Evans was in a TV show. And I'm like, Chris Evans, I'm going to watch that. And then I heard that, J.K. Simmons was in it too. Like, wow, that must be amazing. Of course, like I always do, I went to the Rotten Tomatoes ratings, and it had like 70% or something. I'm like, okay, 70% is not bad, but I'm looking for a show that would like wow me, because I had recently been listening to many reviews about The Queen's Gambit, right? And everybody was just raving about The Queen's Gambit. And I was like, I have to watch that. But first, I just want to watch something that is like a crime, thriller, mystery, drama, something like that. So this was about a child that dies. Who killed him, right? That kind of thing. But it didn't have the kind of rating I was looking for. I was looking for like 85% to like 95% or something. And then I came across another show. I was just looking for that category of shows. And then I came across a show called The Outsider. It was on HBO. And it had like a 90% rating or something. I'm like, wow. And Jason Bateman was in it. So, of course, I'm sold. Ozark, right? Judging by my face, I think you can guess what my experience was with Outsider. Before I go to why the show disappointed me and all that, I just want to talk about the fact that I skipped out on one show and chose the other, and there was like a 6-month gap, or like I can't even remember how long, but there was a long gap before I went to the Chris Evans show, before I went to Defending Jacob. And I feel very angry about it. I'm incensed, you can say, because I really regretted it after watching it. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to talk about The Outsider first. The show dragged. Oh my God. This was I'm not going to call it one of the worst shows ever. It started out well. It started out okay. I mean, it started out with a strong punch because Jason Bateman was like taking the lead, and there was another cop character, and there were like the wife and everything, and a child dies. Like I said, I'm not spoiling anything. It's just in the trailer, but I'm just gonna say, don't watch it. If you can, if you want to watch it, sure. But you know what I'm trying to tell you. Don't watch it, but watch it if you want to, whatever. But I would recommend it if you like shows like this and you're fine with the slow pace, but just look at my face and take a guess. But it started out with a strong kick, and then it just dwindled in the very next episode. Okay. But then I was like, I was holding on to this like feeling like it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Why? Because it's based on a Stephen King novel, and Jason Bateman has directed some of these episodes. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. The show dragged. Okay. It was just, it felt halfway through, I kind of started to feel like the show relied more on the atmosphere and the sound, the background music, the sound design, the music of the show, more than the story. It felt like that. The story, it could have been wrapped up in 5 or 6 episodes. Okay. It could have been wrapped up in that. So I'm going to talk about one more thing about the supernatural element of the show, but I want to talk why I'm angry, I'm pissed off, basically, that I didn't go to Defending Jacob. 3-4 months later, I can't remember how long, I went to watch Defending Jacob because Chris Evans is in it, and even if it got like a lower rating, I'd watch it because he's in it. Defending Jacob is a far more superior show in terms of storytelling, dialogue, tension, atmosphere, suspense, and just, I would say, emotion than The Outsider. The Outsider had this element of there's just too much going on. It's trying to be too many things. It's trying to be a crime thriller, a mystery, whodunit, and a supernatural horror show. Defending Jacob was about the same thing. A child dies. Who killed it? Someone's been accused. But who is it? Is it Jacob, like it says Defending Jacob, or is it someone else? It's a great whodunit, of course, but at the heart of it, it's about the circus that surrounds the family of the accused, and more than the victim themselves or the whatever. The heart of it, it's about that circus. In The Outsider, it was the same thing. It was a circus that surrounded the family that, where the man got accused and the wife is just distraught because everybody just gives her the stink eye, basically. And you just have a bad reputation in your job and everywhere else. Same thing happens here. But here it felt more real, more raw. And it's even a very good whodunit. Like, who is responsible for this? But the pain was more real and more raw here. I'm going to tell you why. In The Outsider, this is like minor spoiler, but it's whatever, It's not that important to the main plot. I'm not talking about the main plot. I'm going to talk about a little side thing that happens in The Outsider. What happens is the pain that's shown in The Outsider about the family, the grieving family. The mother is heartbroken, has an incident, after her child is dead, basically ends up in the hospital. The other child or the other member of a family, one of the members of the family, goes on a revenge spree because they're just pissed off that, this boy died. And then the father, who is just so distraught about losing his child, wife is, gone, basically. The other one is gone, basically. So he ends up, gone, basically. So it shows that every other child that died, every other, young child that died, their family went through this very similar thing. Mother, has a heartbreak and goes to the hospital, whatever. And then, another member goes on a revenge spree. A father or the head of the family just basically just shuts down, shuts off, everything. So the reason why there's this pattern is because of the entity that has plagued them, basically, the one that has done this evil deed. Defending Jacob didn't have any of it. And I'm telling you why I didn't like this part about The Outsider. It kind of cheapens the pain. It cheapens the pain that a victim's family can feel. The reason being is that you don't need a supernatural element to rip a family apart when a situation like this happens. If a child dies, if a child is killed badly, you don't need a supernatural force to do all of the things I just mentioned. It just happens on its own, okay? The pain, shame, humiliation, heartbreak, revenge, death, other deaths I'm talking about, it just happens on its own, okay? Putting a paranormal spin to that kind of pain, it just, in my opinion, just cheapens it. Like, oh, another entity had to cause this for this to happen. No, it just happens. Defending Jacob did a better job at that because we are seeing this once near perfect family with the, this like picture perfect house with a white picket fence and a good child who just very studious child, never misbehaved once, a great wife, a very respectable husband, just get their whole reputations torn and their whole life falls apart in one night for this one instance. And they didn't need to have the wrath of a demon to do it. Okay. It's like, that's what my problem was. And this is the reason why I can't look at a Rotten Tomatoes critics rating like seriously anymore, because I had to struggle to finish The Outsider episode 10. I was basically playing the skipping game. At the end of the day, between these shows, with Defending Jacob, it became about just waiting on the edge of my seat, waiting for the end, like what's going to happen. With The Outsider, it became mostly about skipping to the end. I had been fast forwarding most of the other scenes because, like I said, it dragged. It didn't need to be that long. I could have just done without most of the element, most of the scenes. It was just hours and hours of driving and talking. So, I guess this was both a review on The Outsider and Defending Jacob, also about Rotten Tomatoes. But the core point is this: like, I think we are all gonna need an aggregate. We're all gonna need a site that gives us proper information on what to watch and what not to watch. But I'm also gonna try and be a bit random about it, and I'm gonna try to choose movies that I have no idea about, that I don't know what their ratings are on Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb, if it's good or bad. I'm just gonna, roll the dice, I guess, in some movies and just take risks and see what experiences I can get. Sometimes I'll get good movies, sometimes I'll get bad movies, but it's gonna be fun. But I don't think I'm gonna take an RT rating that seriously anymore. I'm still gonna look at it, of course, but I guess I'm gonna move on to sites like IMDb and stuff because, yeah, sometimes we do need to see what's hot and what's not, to just, to see what movies we really want to spend time with. And oftentimes, I guess I don't, and I guess I can just see what's there without knowing anything about it. So it's going to be a fun experience. Anyways, I'm going to cut it short this time. I'm not going to make this episode too long. Like I said, you can catch me on Shree Talks on every available podcast platform except for Apple, except for iTunes, like I said. And you can listen to Shree Talks also, the full episode, on YouTube. I'm going to upload it from now on since I'm doing the whole video thing. I like it. I don't mind it. You can also subscribe to me on Shree Nation on YouTube and follow me on Shree Nation on Instagram. I post mostly about films and self-development on YouTube, and mostly my fitness and diet on Instagram, because I have been, working on losing weight and I've lost some, so I'm quite happy about it. Anyways, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I didn't waste your time. See you next week.